Hi, welcome into my studio. Different kind of video for you today, and I'm looking really at reference photos. I know lots of people, they get reference photos from clients of dogs, cats, pet portraits, or even wildlife, and they're choosing the wrong photos, or they're working from really poor quality photos. So I'm just going to go over a little bit on what I class as a good photo, perhaps show you a few pitfalls you may be able to avoid. So all the photos I'm going to show I took fairly recently at a wildlife park, and this one of a cheetah, you can see it's a nice shot. It's in focus, and I've seen people use this type of thing as a reference photo. Now it makes for a funny photograph. The cheetah looks like it's laughing or smiling, but doesn't really lend itself to any serious piece of artwork at all. So just because a photograph makes you smile or something doesn't really mean it's going to work as a piece of art. Here's another one. Great shot, it's all right. There's a bit of light in the eye, we've got plenty of detail in it. The cheetah is sticking its tongue out, so it's another one of those funny photos, but not necessarily good for reference. Now if you're working from a photo like this, I would obviously take the tongue away and use other references. Even if you're taking references from online, just for that bit of mouth, don't go making things up. What I find with lots of novices and beginners, they'll have a photo such as this and they think they know where the mouth probably goes, the top lip if the tongue wasn't there, and they're making that bit up. They're doing it out of their mind, and more often than not it just doesn't work well at all. So make sure you get lots more reference photos then, so you can tell exactly the shape of the mouth and get the lighting right on it as well. Here's another photo. Once again, it's pretty sharp. The lighting's not bad on there. We've got some nice contrast, but the cheetah looks unhappy. It's kind of looking down. There's not much light in the eyes. It's not got that much punch and contrast. So this is something, once again, I would not use personally. Even if I change the lighting and try boosting it up on there, it's not a subject that really grabs me. And that's what I look at with my reference photos. I want something that I really like the look at. Usually it's got a lot of punch to it as well, a lot of contrast and good lighting on there too. So let's take a look at another one. Okay, so the issues with this one is kind of central. The head is almost in the center. The top of the head is going out of the frame as well. Once again, another one I personally wouldn't work from at all. So don't be scared to tell your clients, your customers, no, I really need a better photograph, or look on the internet for, if you're doing a dog for the same breed, so you can perhaps take the shape and the character from the reference they gave you, and then all the details and perhaps some of the lighting from another image. One thing I try to avoid a lot of the times with my reference photos and with my artwork is that kind of bullseye effect, where the center of interest, in this case the cheetah's head, is right in the center of the frame. Now obviously with our own reference photos we can crop and adjust areas in that, but when the body is coming in from the side, twisting sharply, and the head is looking back, it can make the body look really disjointed, and it can look like you've actually got it all wrong. Now obviously we could crop it and perhaps make something a bit better out of it, the image, bring that around so the head is not in the bullseye, and you could see that that would make for a nicer image. But can you see how this body just looks like it doesn't belong? So go with your gut instinct a lot of the times, or at least I do. If I've got that kind of feeling that something is just not right, I try and work out what it is, and if I can't fix it, then I'll go on to another reference image. Once again, here's another one of those bullseye type of references. So the center of interest, the head, is again on that middle section, on that bullseye. Kind of stops your eye from going around in the composition, and it can seem a really quite stilted, quite stuck in that central part. Now obviously we could adjust it, crop it. With this particular one it's not so bad because the cheetah's looking into it. It's giving it room to maneuver as such. It's giving it space on that right hand side. So it does pretty much work. I think we could do better with that. But that's probably an image I would use. I may crop it and then perhaps make it all about the head and the eyes. You can see if I cropped it down like that, I think that would make more of a dramatic image. One last look at another bullseye effect. So you can see even when I take these lines out, that's showing you where it's right in that center. Kind of, there's not a lot of drama in the scene. When you've got that central thing, the viewer's eye goes right into it. I'd use this reference, but I would probably adjust it again. I think to myself, is there anything in the photograph that's not adding to the image? And I don't think we need all this top section. So I take that out. That makes for a better image already. The cheetah is looking into this view, so it kind of works on the right hand side. But if I could bring perhaps a little bit more in and almost get the head on this rule of thirds spot, then once again I think that's more of a satisfying and more dramatic image to look at. Here's one that I've recently done a big pastel tutorial on. So we can see here the head is not too far away from that rule of thirds section. We've got lots of contrast in the image. Remember I said to make a dramatic image, sometimes we want lots of contrast. Not all the time. Perhaps you've got a wolf in a misty scene and there's hardly any contrast, but that's more the exception than the rule. And generally I like punchy images, dramatic images. So in this one we've got all those dark grasses behind the light and brightly coloured grasses in front, and we've got the cheetah's head here that's got that bright light on the front as well. And to check if an image is really punchy and contrasty, we can take the colour away and look at it in black and white. So if I go image, adjust, and go black and white, and I just say OK, you can see it is still holding a lot of his impact, punch and drama. You can see that head really comes out from the background, so you know then that that image is going to work well. Here's a portrait. Now remember I said about that, if you've got it right in the middle, that it can make for a composition that's not got as much going on in it, much drama, but there's some instances where I love the subject to be dead center and it holds the viewer's vision right into it and draws them in, and this would be one that I would paint and draw like that. Crucial things, we've got some nice lighting in the eyes. I don't like it when the eyes are all dark, and with cheetah you get that quite frequently because of that overhang on the forehead. But in this instance we've got some nice lighting in the eyes, got plenty of detail on it. We've got nice contrast between the light on the one side of the head compared to the other, and it all sticks out really nicely from that subdued background. So this is definitely one that I would use as a portrait. This one works quite well as well. You can see that we're not in that dead center. Again, we've got some lovely contrast in there. I would say to myself, are there any elements that are not adding to the composition, to the reference that I'm working from? And I would say this section of grass over here is not adding much, and we don't need it to be that big. So if I drag it across, you can see the head is starting to come onto the rule of thirds spot as well. If I hit enter on there, I think that makes for a more dramatic composition. That cheetah's looking back in down the line of his back, and then we've fortunately got those twigs in the background that's bringing the viewer's eye back around to the head, so we've got a nice flow in that composition. I would also consider possibly taking some of the body away as well. personal preference, that's all that is, and that may be a little bit more dramatic having that crop, but like I say, personal preference. Let's have a look at some different subjects. Here's one of your kind of standard type of zoo photographs of a giraffe. Now the lighting you can see is very flat. We haven't got a lot of contrast in the head at all. It's nice and sharp. It's good reference for detail, for perhaps for the eyes to look at as well, but this is not one that I would really work from. I don't like making up too much lighting effect. When you start making things up, then things can start to go wrong more easily. You don't have to be a slave to your reference, but if you possibly can, you know, get the best reference you can. That's when I've always found my best work comes from that. Now if we look at it in black and white, you can see how it's really showing now that it's almost all kind of mid-tone. There's no real contrast. There's not a lot of highlights in there. So we haven't got much shape and form on the giraffe's head. We've got a real flat look to it. It's easier to see when you put it into black and white. Now that giraffe walked across a small bit and looked back at me. Great side lighting from the top right hand side down onto the head, and you can see this really now all showing the shape and form. So it's a big difference. Makes for a really dramatic composition. We could, if we wanted to, crop this section out, I think. Perhaps bring this over. That may be a little bit more interesting. And if we take this one and do that black and white again, you see now we've got lots of punch, lots of impact in it. We've got that three-dimensional look to the giraffe's head. So that's an easy thing to do with your reference, to pop it into black and white to see, you know, if you've got enough contrast in there to make for a dramatic subject. Here's an eland. Once again, use your typical type of zoo photo. I'm never too concerned about the background. We can always crop that out as artists. We don't need to worry about that. We could easily put a grassy background in there. Just be aware that when you change the background or what the animal is standing on, that's also going to have impact on the bounce light. So I know for a fact that this eland is standing on a sandy floor. So that light is bouncing up with strong light, and you can see under the chin and the neck we've got a nice warm light. If it was standing on grass, we'd have a green tinge in there. So if you are changing the background, be aware of that. Now after just a couple of seconds, this eland was walking around and I got a much more pleasing reference photo. We got some better light on there. We got a nice subdued background. As I said, as the artist, we could easily get rid of this top section, but I kind of like this grey and the green as well, and we got that nice bounce light under the chin. Lots of people work from very busy photographs and they don't change them at all. Quite like the twigs in there, but we got, once again, not a great deal of contrast on the bird. Lighting's really subdued as well. Composition's okay, as in the birds on the rule of thirds. That looks quite interesting. How it's up here makes for a nice dynamic composition, but by following the bird with my camera and waiting for better opportunities, all of a sudden it jumped on a different part of the branch. Got some lovely lighting on there as well, and some really good details. So that's kind of bringing this video to an end. I could crop this while I'm talking. We could do a couple of different things like that, and hope it's been of use to you. But top tips would be, if you're taking commissions for pet portraits, make sure that's a good reference photo. It's really going to add to your stress levels if you're taking or using a photograph that's blurry, and especially it's under bad lighting or it's got a real bad color cast to it. I'd go back to the client, if possible, ask them to take a photograph outdoors. Show them perhaps a few videos on YouTube that's showing people how to take better photographs of their pets, and really try your best, if you can't get there yourself to take the photograph, to get a better reference from them. Don't be scared in saying no. I've took numerous commissions when I first started out with art that I really regretted, and it wasn't worth doing it. So I hope this video has been of help to you, and I'll see you all again real soon.